All right. Our next speaker is someone who needs no introduction. He is the founder of the New York R Conference, chief data scientist at Lander Analytics. He is the professor at Columbia and Princeton Universities, author of the book R for Everyone. Second edition is now out, third edition he's working on, and a really, truly a dear friend. Please welcome to the stage, Jared Lander.
So, we are going to look over the past 15 years of data science in New York City. And we're only going to do 15 years because data science has really only been a term for about 15 years. We're going to look at how we started and what has changed. And I'm just going to reboot this for a second because these are not it's not synced up anymore. So give me 1 second, folks. I do apologize for this. There we go. And I'm using Quarto just so everyone knows if things get out of sync. All right. So 15 years ago, almost to the month, was the first ever meetup. Back then it was called the R Meetup, and Josh Reich was the leader. 21 people RSVP'd, and it was held at Union Square Ventures. And I didn't even know about it yet. It was completely unknown to me. Then a few months later, on September 30th, there was the first ever New York City machine learning meetup, hosted by Paul Dix, who would later be joined by Max Kesson, and it was hosted at KGB Web. I think they were a web developer. I'm not sure they exist anymore. A few months after that, in December, was the first ever predictive analytics meetup, hosted by Alex Lin, who would later be joined by Bruno Moritzen. And it was at Bluefly, the clothing outlet. But I'm going to back up a little bit to May 20th, 2009. I just finished a degree in statistics because there were no degrees in data science. It didn't exist. There was no such thing. And this was after an illustrious career on the Columbia hockey team. I am the bushy one on the far left. I had a blazing fast computer with 4 gigabytes of RAM. And it was a 64-bit processor, which was a game changer because you could address unlimited amounts of memory, up to 4 gigabytes because that's all I had. And I just upgraded my candy bar phone to the iPhone 3GS. I'm now on Android. We've all gone through these changes. Then July 6th is a day that would change my life. A friend from college sent me a link to Andrew Gelman's blog, where he was telling everyone about the R meetup happening in a few days because it was about Bayes. That's how I heard about the group. So 3 days later, on July 9th, I attended my first ever R meetup. It was at the NYU political science classroom, and I instantly fell in love with the group. I thought this place was amazing. And that's where I met Drew Conway. He had mostly taken over at that point. And just so you know, he is holding a normal-sized burger, so you have a sense of scale for how tall he is. On January 7th was a talk that I remember years later. It was the Rosetta Stone talk. From the early days of the meetup, it was about multiple languages. This talk showed how to do different things in Python, MATLAB, SAS, SQL, and in Cantor. And it was given by Drew Conway, Harlan Harris, Georgette Asherman, Josh Reich, and Shane Conway, not related to Drew. And this has stuck with me ever since then, because there's always multiple languages. Then on April 8th in 2010, I gave the only meetup I've ever given to the group. And it was about pizza. Has to be. I wrote my thesis on pizza, and I gave a talk about my thesis. And this is also a rare PowerPoint talk. I've given 2 PowerPoint talks professionally. This was one of them. At this point, the meetup was being held in the Columbia Political Science Playroom because Andrew Gelman was helping us get space. And we have had many hosts over the years hosting the meetup. This is the list that I could find of all the people that have hosted us. We've had Columbia, NYU, Workbench, eBay, AOL hosted us. Microsoft, Memorial Sloan Kettering, so many different places hosted us. We are grateful to all these organizations and all these people that have helped us. It was around that time that Drew founded the NYC Data Mafia, complete with a logo. He designed this himself, and it showed some of his favorite tools, SED, awk, grep, and R. And of course, we have t-shirts. We had the NYC Data Mafia t-shirts, and we have IR New York t-shirts, and those were designed by Adam Hogan. And these tools are just some of the data stack we had back then, which included R, of course, SAS, SPSS, Stata, MySQL, Jags and Bugs, and MATLAB. Not all these are open source, because this is what we had at the time. And these tools made up the hacking part of the Venn diagram. This is at least the second time you've seen it today. I think this diagram is now post-famous. There's a whole generation of people now who have no clue what it is, because it's been around for so long. But this is Drew's famous Venn diagram, which said you needed to have hacking skills, statistics skills, and domain expertise. Then August 9th, 2011, Drew made a big announcement, 2 years into the meetup. The New York R meetup would become the New York Open Statistical Programming Meetup. It's a mouthful. But it reflected the big tent. It was more obvious now that all languages are welcome at this meetup. They always were, but now it made it obvious. And we very quickly had talks about Julia and Python and many other languages since then. Back then, there was a big data conference. It was a big conference, and it was about big data. It was the Super Bowl of data conferences. It was Strata Conference and Hadoop World. This is when Hadoop was all the rage. It was put on by O'Reilly. At first, it was at the Midtown Hilton, and then it moved to the Javits Center. And they've had conferences in New York, San Francisco, Singapore, London. And it was just so incredibly fun to hang out in the hallways and just run into friends and hang out with them. Unfortunately, it ended in 2020. That's what happens. Then on June 5th, 2012, less than a year after the name change, Drew Conway handed over the reins of the meetup to myself and Wes McKinney. And this is a prime example of both R and Python getting along. Despite how much I troll Wes. You'll see that tomorrow. And you'll see I'm wearing the Data Mafia t-shirt, and I'm forcing him to hold up an R t-shirt. Then fall of 2020, Columbia had its first ever data science class. And it might have been the first ever data science class at a major university. I haven't been able to find any other ones. Rachel Shutt taught the concepts, I taught R, and Kathy O'Neill blogged about it. And we had so many great guest speakers. We had Claudia Perlich, David Madigan, Mark Hansen, Jake Hoffman. And the class was so foundational that it got turned into a book, Doing Data Science. It was one of the first of its kind. Skipping ahead a few years to April 2015, we had the first New York R conference. It was held at Workbench, and with Workbench, they were partnered up with us on this. And we had speakers like Andrew Gelman, Max Kuhn, Wes McKinney. Notice a lot of them have stuck around. And the conference was not just R. There was Julia, Python, very, very open. It was an open conference. And we've had a lot of fun at this event throughout the years. There was good people, good talks, good food. Then, November 21st, 2016, there was another first. It was the first R Ladies NYC meetup. And they have become such an important part of this community. And the community is so incredibly vibrant. There's 15,000 members at NYHackR alone, and they've contributed so much. This is just some of the books written by members of this community. There's the R Cookbook, Applied Predictive Modeling, Pandas for Everyone, Text Mining with R. It's a really great resource that this community has put out there. And we had a bike gang. The NYC Data Bikers. And notice since it's R, we use dots to separate the words, not underscores. And our goal in this gang was to consume more calories than we burned on the bikes. We go on 50-mile bike rides throughout the 5 boroughs, and probably our most full of food trip was one day to Coney Island. We stopped at a Venezuelan street cart. We had Totono's Pizza. Then we rode the Cyclone. Then we had Nathan's Hot Dogs, White Castle, and Ample Hills ice cream. This is what we did. 50 miles gets you all that. And this is a photo of us partway through riding a century. That's 100 miles. And you'll notice Dan Chen in the background holding a folding bike. He rode 100 miles on a folding bike. Yes, that is commitment. And this community is full of so many caring people. DataKind, an organization for using data for good, was founded by Jake Porway here in New York City. And throughout the years, we've documented everything at the Meetup website. We have 15 years of talks, we have slideshows, we have videos, and it's written in our Markdown. It's written before Quarto, and we're not migrating. It's just too hard. And all the talks now are live streamed on YouTube. And the website also has our pizza poll. Anyone who's come to the meetup knows that every month we choose a different pizza place with repeats, so it's a panel data. And we ask the people to rate it, tell us how much they like it. We've been doing this for about 12 years, and the data is available as a live JSON feed at jaredlander.com/data. And you can go pull it anytime you want. It's become such a part of the community that longtime member Thomas Levine made a painting of the data set. He hand-painted a faceted bar chart of the pizza data. So we auctioned this off at one of the conferences and donated the money to the R Foundation. I wanted this so badly, but I couldn't bid on it because I was the organizer of the conference. I couldn't bid on it. So to my surprise, the Robinson family won the auction and gave it to me. You can see from the smile on my face how much I love what they did. And I'm still hanging this in my office. I love this so much. And there's just one example of this community getting along so well, most of the time. This is one of my favorite photos of D-Rob and Jeff Ryan debating the merits of the tidyverse. One of them loves it, one of them doesn't care for it. Of course, they're being very respectful, but I just love this photo so much. I think JD actually took this photo. And there's been so many friendships and so many relationships developed at this meetup, including where I met my wife. I met her at the meetup, though I didn't remember this on our first date. I said, "Nice to meet you," and she said, "I met you at the meetup." And I was like, oh, crap. Luckily, she still went with it. And yes, that is a pizza truck at our wedding. And yes, we made the wedding website with R. And the New York Times concluded our announcement with, "The couple met in New York in May 2014 at a meetup about statistical programming." According to Drew, it was the nerdiest ending he's ever seen. And this led to Lev and Dahlia. Some of you may know that I used R to help choose Lev's name. I did a whole analysis of baby names and frequency and chose his name. And yes, both kids are branded. They wear all the conference swag they can get their hands on or that we put on them. And the universities have taken note of the swelling of data science as well. Columbia has the Data Science Institute. It's come a long way since that first class we had. NYU has the Center for Data Science. And other universities are getting involved, like Cornell Tech. But they've now all started pivoting to AI. AI is so hot right now. Columbia has artificial intelligence at Columbia, and you have AI at NYU. But I had to prove I was a human to the Columbia AI, which is kind of scary. And you can't talk about the past 15 years without talking about the pandemic. This is a big part of the story, especially for us New Yorkers. In April 2020, we quickly pivoted to online talks. And Noam Ross gave a talk about COVID because he was already an expert in coronavirus. He studies this stuff for a living. So it was a perfect talk. And this community is full of all these great experts who know so much about these various topics. The next month, we all wanted to analyze the data, so Rami Crispin gave a talk about the COVID-19 R project, how to get data about COVID so you can go and analyze it. By the third month, though, we realized we were in it for the long haul, and we had a regular talk, a back-to-regular talk about GAMs. And this allowed us to have talks from people all around the world, like Gavin Simpson from Canada. And there's been a virtual live component for the meetup ever since then. So anyone around the world can attend now. Though we were doing that before the pandemic, we're just doing it better now. We figured it out finally. We got the audio working. And that year, we held the New York R Conference virtually. This was the setup I set to use to stream that very first year. It's gotten a lot more sophisticated since then, and I use a lot fewer snack trays. And we're still offering a virtual component to the conference because we want anyone to be able to attend. And that first year, we even mailed out swag, so people could get a taste of the before times. We sent out stickers, the program, camera covers, so everyone could get a little bit of a taste of it. Finally, in 2022, it went back to in-person with the hybrid option. Anyone in the world could attend, but the pizza and beer was just for people there, unless the virtual people brought their own. And D-Rob was our first speaker that year, back to in-person. And the conference also returned to in-person with our celebrity bartenders. It's a big fun part of what we're doing. And so much of the world has changed during the pandemic, and our tools have changed also. We have a whole new set of tools now. We still have R. Python's now a much bigger player. SQL, Snowflake, Postgres, DuckDB, Spark, Stan, Torch. A lot of these didn't exist when the meetup started. Some are old, some are new. And that brings us back to our Venn diagram. But we have an updated one, the AI Venn diagram. This is saying AI is this all-encompassing discipline, and machine learning is a subset of AI. And within machine learning, deep learning is a subset. And somewhere in there, generative AI fits as well. All along, New York continues to grow. It has more tech than ever. This Signal Flare report talked about how more tech workers are moving to New York than anywhere else. And they're fleeing the Bay Area. People come here, they want the social scene, they want the food, they want the nightlife. They want the community. The meetup continues to grow. It gets bigger and bigger every year. About 15,000 people in the meetup. Mostly from the New York metro area, but also from all around the world. And New York is becoming an AI powerhouse, at least according to this paywalled article in the Wall Street Journal. And these are some of the New York City AI companies, with the New York City base as loosely defined, as given by Silicon Valley Bank. I'm not sure they're a bank anymore. But they put this out after the whole collapse. But they're missing a few companies like DigitalOcean, a small cloud company based in New York, Paperspace, the company they acquired, Espresso AI, and Lander Analytics. We didn't make the list. And the state is providing $400 million to form a consortium to make New York a national leader in AI research and innovation. They're putting their money behind this. And New York City has an action plan for AI. I'm not sure what's in it. I didn't read it. But there's a nice letter from the mayor in there. But it hasn't all gone well. New York City had an AI chatbot that told businesses to lie, and they refused to take it down. But it's a start. Because remember, New York was one of the first places to have open government data. There's this great website. You can find all the data you want about the city. Some of my favorites are the taxi data, the city bike data, 311 data, and tree data. There's the tree census on there. Yes, we had a census for the trees. It's all up there. You can get it by downloading CSV, by using an API. It's amazing. But through it all, a consistent thread has been the Open Statistical Programming Meetup. It's been going strong for 15 years. I love this community so much, and I am so incredibly grateful to have been a part of it. It's meant so much to me, and I really hope it means so much to everyone else, too. So thank you all for being here and being a part of it.